me get back to the farm and we'll talk about it. Right after I let Casper do Casper things. When should you tune a 6.5? Well, that's kind of a loaded question. A lot of people think that you have to tune them if you put a wicked wheel in them. You don't. A lot of people say that you have to tune them when you put a lift pump on them. You don't. A lot of people say that you have to tune them if you put an upper intake system on them. You don't. The only times that you really need to consider tuning a 6.5 liter turbo diesel is when you do a turbo swap. So, if you put an HX35 on, you need to get a tune to optimize fueling, timing to better match the turbocharger. If you run an HX40, the same follows. If you run an S300, example A, it's the same concept. If you do a vacuum pump delete and you run a wicked wheel with a spool stick and do an upper intake, that's an acceptable time to go ahead and get a tune, because the truck is still trying to function as though it has a vacuum wastegate. The vacuum wastegate actually works pretty well on these if you know how to fix them and keep them going, and it actually runs basically no boost going down the road, and then when you command it pulls the wastegate, etc., etc. So when you do a spool stick, a wicked wheel, an upper intake, or if you just do a spool stick, it is recommended to go ahead and spend the money and get a tune to optimize performance of the vehicle. Now, if you leave the truck completely stock with a vacuum wastegate, put a wicked wheel in it, and put an upper intake on it, I wouldn't bother tuning it. It's not going to see a whole lot of benefit. Yes, the truck will see some improvement, but that vacuum wastegate is pretty optimized to begin with, and it will keep the truck running as intended from day one. So that being said, quick recap. If you've got a 6.5 and you put a lift pump on it, you don't need a tune. If you've got a 6.5 and you put just a wicked wheel in it and you don't do anything else, you don't need a tune. If you've got a stock 6.5 and you just do an upper intake, you don't need a tune. When you need a tune is when you start playing with the overall factory function of the vehicle. Delete the vacuum pump, get a tune. If you go ahead and delete the EGR in a 1500 or a light duty 2500, then S, get a tune. If you do an HX35 turbo swap, do a tune. If you do an HX40 turbo swap, do a tune. If you go to a spool stick, wicked wheel, upper intake, and get like an SNB or homegrown air intake system, get a tune. And that way the truck runs at maximum efficiency with the setup you have. Quad Star Tuning does a nice job of pairing and everything. John did great tuning Casper years ago. This is on either the third or fourth tune revision from him, and quite frankly, it is one of the best running trucks I've ever owned. So, that said, if you've got a 6.5 and you're doing some work, those are the times you really should consider tuning. If you put a 4-inch exhaust on, you don't need a tune. If you do a lift pump, you don't need one. So, hopefully that makes a little bit more sense to you guys, and I hope that it helps, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Thanks all.